I will take this one to the grave. If you're lucky enough to be watching this video from the United States, or really any first world or stable country with a good economy, you're incredibly fortunate, and I'm going to tell you why in this video. This video might get some heat, and that's fine, because I want to go on a little rant and share my perspective as an American living in developing countries and as a guy who's done a lot of traveling over the last 2 years. For Americans, no matter who you voted for or whether or not you're happy with the direction of the country right now, you basically have won the geographic lottery just by being born here. You live in a society that, although it's imperfect, it's at least designed to give you a chance to succeed. It gives you a chance to advance in society if you put some work in. Now, this year I've done a lot of traveling and visiting and living in countries that don't have the same resources or opportunities that America has. And I can confidently say that if I wasn't lucky enough to be born in America, I could not be going on these adventures that I am now. And it makes me feel almost guilty. I could not have quit my job. I could not travel like this. I wouldn't have the economic standing that I have in the world right now without America. Many countries have corrupt governments, wars, extreme poverty, making escape and success very difficult. And I've even seen some people mention that about their countries in my comments, and it makes me sad that they've been dealt a worse hand, yet it makes me feel grateful and almost guilty at the same time for the hand I was given because I didn't earn it. It was just luck. No matter how flawed it is, America is a representation that people of all backgrounds and walks of life can get along and succeed, and this country really is rich with opportunity and advancement. Why do you think so many people want to come here? Before we get into it, if you're from another country, especially those thought of traditionally as not a rich country watching this, or if you have family living elsewhere, please leave me a comment because I'm extremely interested in your perspective on this one. So these last few years, I've done a lot of traveling, and it's really opened my eyes to what America is on the global scale. And at times I feel like lucky, definitely, and almost guilty for the country I'm from because it's been a big perspective shift for me. For most of my 20s, I participated, and I really do continue to participate in the American capitalist system for about the last 6-7 years. Now I've been traveling. In these last 2 years, I've been in many countries in Europe, such as Malta, Italy, UK, and many places in Central and South America. And since quitting my job, I've been living in Colombia in South America for a few months now as well. I love Colombia, I love living here, and I'd recommend people visit due to the rich culture, amazing and friendly people, and beautiful landscape. And it's really much different and better than what the media often portrays. It kind of gets an unfair treatment. And actually, the crime rate where I live now is much lower than when I lived in Milwaukee and major U.S. cities. While being here, it's hard not to notice the economic differences, which is similar if you'd compare any first world country to one that's considered a developing country. For example, when I clear immigration into Colombia, I can immediately exchange $1 for 4,000 Colombian pesos, which if you do the cost of living math, I'm basically 5xing my buying power for no reason other than the country I was born in. I mean, imagine just 5xing your money overnight, and you can do that as an American by traveling. The standard work week here is 48 hours. It's not 40, and yet Americans are complaining all the time about working 40 hours a week's too much. And while Americans often talk about work-life balance concerns, in many countries, such as this one, the work week's longer and wages are much lower. And to me, this highlights just the disparities between first world countries and developing ones. The median salary here is $800 per month, and it's much higher in richer areas, and there's bad wealth inequality here as well. The cities are great and modern, but the poor here live in barrios with limited access to clean water and electricity. And while poverty exists everywhere, including the United States, in developing countries, access to basic necessities like clean water, reliable electricity is often a big challenge. Poverty here and in developing countries and in a large part of the world is more tied to actually just surviving. So I've really been reflecting wow, if you're born in a developing country, it's a lot harder to achieve financial freedom and be able to do things and travel the world and quit your job. The only reason I could do this whole thing is because I worked in America. In many other instances, it wouldn't have worked. I didn't work for that. It's just luck. I was simply born in a powerful and rich country at the peak of its power. Also, with my United States passport, I can basically go to any country I want, visa-free with a few exceptions, because the world trusts you for some reason when you have this passport. But if you're from many other developing countries, where you can go is extremely limited, and you're often facing significant legal barriers to go to other countries. I can move around the map, I can spend money, I can get on planes, and the vast majority of the world can't. I can comfortably work and buy stuff and do these things in these other countries in Europe and in Latin America, go get nice food, relax, take break from work and do things like YouTube, simply because of the economic differences of the countries. They can't do the same, even if they did the exact same path that I did, which is go to school, become a software engineer, work for a big company. It wouldn't work the same from another country just because of the economy, because they make much less on a world scale compared to what an American would make for the same job. Also, by crossing into the US or another affluent country, your purchasing power likely is much less than just due to the weaker currency and during these economic times. And it feels unfair to me. So I'm lucky enough to have the opportunity to be living the American dream and putting in the work. And I've just been fascinated by this phenomenon. Like America, a country with so much opportunity, gets so much heat from everyone about how awful it is or how people living there are totally screwed. And I've been fascinated with this. Like, why does America get so much hate to begin with? So let's take a little bit of a look. America gets a lot of hate, often from, I'd say, left-leaning political ideologies, but a lot of it's valid. I mean, let's examine some of the common criticisms. A corrupt capitalist system with wealth inequality, many people living paycheck to paycheck, an inefficient healthcare system, lack of social safety net compared to other stable countries. And these are valid points. Those don't sound like good things to me. And then you get into the even worse, bad history of slavery, questionable involvement in wars, and we live on land that was stolen from others as well. And these are valid points in a bad part of our history. But let me ask you this, which country didn't have these problems? I mean, people have taken over other people's land for all of human history. You pick up a history book, you realize unjust wars have been a staple of human existence everywhere, and most countries have had some form of slavery and inequality towards groups of people as well. And I'm not saying that this excuses it or makes it okay, but rather that America is just not special for having these issues that we get so much hate for. You can critique America's handling of a lot of this stuff all day. I mean, there's definitely room for improvement, but America's not special for having a flawed history or systemic issues. In fact, there are many other nations with far more corrupt systems that get far less hate. So why does America get so much criticism? Because we're still at the top. When you're the leader, you're held to a higher standard, and every flaw is magnified. I mean, America in the 19th century and beyond kind of went from a developing nation to becoming very powerful. And it had a lot of things going for it. I mean, it had geographic advantages. It was very hard to attack us. We have good natural resources, good innovation, and good immigration throughout our history. We won a couple of wars and it solidified our place in the global economy. And because of that, we're a leader now. And due to this kind of uprising, my fellow Americans watching this, we have a huge opportunity just based on pure luck of being born here. So what are some of the main benefits of living in America? Number one, obviously, high income potential. The median household income in the U.S. is about $75,000, which median income in a lot of developing countries is only a fraction of that. You also have access to global markets and the American stock market, which has been one of the greatest wealth generators for normal people of all time. We also have more political stability and rule of law. So obviously it's not perfect. There's some corruption, but overall we have a pretty stable government and enforced rule of law that makes the country definitely better. We also have advanced infrastructure and technology. You have social mobility. There's a lot of rags to riches stories in America. And I'll say there's no easier country to go from rags to riches than this one. We still have safety nets, although we could do a little bit better. In terms of passport privileges, we have visa-free travel to over 180 countries. And if you're from a less powerful nation, you often can go to much, much less countries, especially wealthier ones. At least in our healthcare system is costly, it's imperfect, but we do have advanced medical technology and treatment that's far better than a lot of nations. Many people in developing countries also struggle to meet basic needs if you're on the lower end of society. And in contrast, if you're at or below the poverty line in the U.S., you still have access to public assistance and infrastructure. And although I believe our education system is getting worse, we still do boast a lot of world-class universities, and this can help advance people as well. So being born in the U.S., just a matter of luck, geographic luck, historical luck. You didn't earn it. It's a privilege handed you by circumstance, and you were born in the top dog at a dominant time in its history. This isn't to say that life in the U.S. isn't without challenges. I mean, we have a lot of issues as well, and I think our food's terrible for one, but obviously many other real challenges. But compared to the barriers faced by many globally, the opportunities are immense. People from all over the world are begging to get into America to just have a chance at success here. So if you reside in America or another similar country, take advantage of this opportunity. If you're sitting there complaining about the unfair system America has, you need to take a long look in the mirror. Would you rather be in a country where it's challenging to even make $20,000 a year, where the government controls your whole life, where you can't share opposing political opinions without being thrown in jail, where inequality and opportunities are far worse? Instead of focusing on what's wrong, recognize the opportunities you have and use them for a better future. Many people worldwide would love to have even a fraction of these chances. So stop complaining, go make it happen, because if you live here, you've been dealt a very lucky hand and you have a chance. Let me know what you think in the comments, especially if you disagree or have a different perspective than mine. I'd love to hear it. And as always, have a good day.